Yes. Hopefully we are all of our channels now. Welcome back everybody to our third of the day today. And we are back with our Archaeogaming one, who is also on this morning already. We are doing a team highlight of teams. You can learn more about what the live team does, who they are. We have on Kate, Alex. David is also one of the main from the team, but he's not with us today. But you do see him all the time on the streams on Fridays and Saturdays. So very quickly, as my loads nice and slow, SASA stands for Save Ancient Studies Aloud. The study of the ancient engagement with our human deeper past, building grassroots movement through curation, accessibility, and the publishership. We work towards our goal of inspiring a wide, inclusive community of students in many ways, including labs like this and our and many other projects that SASA has, like a research blog, an open access database, logical database, etc. To find out what SASA does, follow and subscribe to our social media pages, SASA Alliance. We post on social media pretty much every single day. We stream on Facebook on those platforms. So please, some protocol for as always, please be and ask questions. You can please in your questions and comments to the teachers on whatever platform you're watching on. Be patient with technology, especially mine today. My computer is nice and slow today. And again, these streams will be recorded, so you can catch it later as well. Last but not least, if you like what you see, consider becoming a monthly donor. Organization, tiers, except for when we receive grants for specific projects. So really, any donation helps. You can imagine, I think. Thank you all for joining us, and I will have Alex introduce themselves. So usually, as I say, please kind of like your area of study. You out about SASA / why you SASA to me, so I'm going to call on first.
Yes, while I sip my tea as always. So hi everyone, I'm Dr. Kate Minniti. I am an archaeologist and currently art history lecturer, which is, something I can do. My other field of study is Iron Age Sicily. My second field of study is the reception of Egypt in video games, especially Egyptian monsters in video games. And I was actually brought into SASA to host a book club a few years ago now with Dr. Chris Naunton. And then since the call for an Archaeogaming live team was open, I was like, yeah, why not? I'm a gamer. I've been playing games since I was too young to play games. And I got in, and then and then Alex, I guess, had the same thought, although not 20 years of gaming. And that's how and that's how we met.
Yeah.
Quick into that because they both module. So we can talk about that later. But it was actually they were working those modules, and then we were like, oh, look, working on these modules.
Look at these nerds.
Yeah.
At the time, it was me and Rasal, and we were, oh my goodness, I don't have time to do this anymore. We find people who are actually gamers, and these lovely individuals play our Archaeogaming what it is. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, I mean, so yeah, I'm Alexander Vandewalle. Please call me Alex. I am currently a PhD student at the University of Antwerp and Ghent University in Belgium. And my topic of study is the characterization of Greco-Roman or just mythological characters in general in video games. I have previous backgrounds in both classics and film studies. I was also a teacher for a couple of years, but then I yeah, started a PhD. And yeah, how I found out about that, I think it was through Twitter. I think I saw the live streams that Tina was doing at that point. It was 2020, I think. I remember the first ever Archaeogaming live stream I saw was one by the Archaeogaming Collective, and that was actually one by Kate. Kate and Daniele, who's been on our stream a couple of times. It was
Yes.
Assassin's Creed Origins, I remember,
Yep.
and I thought it was so cool to see, like at that point I wasn't doing the PhD, so I started after that. But it was like so cool that people could just play games and talk about them in an academic way at the same time, like talking about everything the games do well or what they don't do well, and stuff like that. And then I started watching those. I think they were monthly streams back then, that Tina was doing, and I went
Yeah,
on
I
one of
think
them.
probably.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
were monthly, and then I went.
Yeah, Christian Casey said that with. Yeah.
Mm. As I said, I went on one of them for Immortals Phoenix Rising. I think then, and then like Lauren said, I did the Archaeogaming education module on the Roman Empire, and imperialism and technology and syncretism, stuff like that. And then yeah, I got an email, I think a couple of weeks, months after that, asking to do this more regularly. And I mean, how could I say no to do that? It's playing games and then talking about them with fun people, and so and it's cool to sort of complement the like the fun part with like the more like discussion part, because I don't know for most people, but like for me at least, like doing this as a PhD study, this like no one else in my immediate vicinity does something like this. Like there's no research groups on games or something. Like it's always like historians or literary scholars or archaeologists like doing this like kind of on the side, and it can, after a while, it can feel kind of isolating. But then if you have something like this that you can contribute in, like it's like it's like a community building thing, or like a network, or just friends and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty fun to do that as well.
Yeah, I would also like to point out that Alex and I have been working together for almost 3 years, and we never met in
Yeah.
person.
No, we've never met. Yeah.
Never, ever.
Never.
We've never been in the
Yes.
same country. We've never been on the same continent.
No, wait.
No,
Isn't
we
that
have been on the
We've
same
been on the
continent. That's
same-
true, because I've
Yeah.
come back home,
Yeah.
but still separated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've never met in person, and we've
No.
been working, like we've been seeing each other every single week, and we talk basically every
Yeah.
day.
True. Yeah.
My favorite parts of a few volunteers. So one of them was Tina, just because when I was
Mm.
there, she was there on like a trip or something, But 99.9 of the people I have never met either, including David, who's the founder of SASA, very closely with, starting everything. Literally talked every day. We're up and talk together, working on stuff. It's like crazy. Alex, for always being at streams. It's so late for you, like every Friday.
I feel like I give this impression that I'm just constantly in the dark. Like there's never sunlight when we do this. Like never ever. Like, but I mean, we do have sun in Belgium. Like it's a thing. But yeah. Yeah.
So before we get too far in the stream, I want to have you guys answer basics. What is Archaeogaming? What does the Archaeogaming live team with SASA do specifically? We already touched on it. Answer the.
I will let Alex answer, because that's his PhD and postdoc application. So
Yeah, so Archaeogaming is a term coined in 2013 by Andrew Reinhardt. It combines archaeology and gaming, obviously, and it's basically the study of archaeology in and of video games. So it's both looking at games as archaeological products in and of themselves, which can have far reaching consequences. Like the most famous example is the 2014 excavation of this big Atari burial site, I think it's called, in New Mexico, where in the 1980s they buried a lot of cartridges of games that just didn't sell well, and when the game industry crashed. But it's also what we're doing, the archaeology in video games, like looking at representations of archaeology in games, in games like Tomb Raider, Uncharted, stuff like that. But we've also expanded it to other games. We've Git and I have written an article on this in relation to The Last of Us. We've done this in Star Wars games as well. One time we've done it in the Zelda games. But I think since then, and especially in the last couple of years, Archaeogaming has sort of conflated with like the field of historical game studies, like looking at broader representations of history, or mythology or antiquity in games, and that's, I think, most of what we've been doing. I mean, for example, earlier today we were playing Total War Pharaoh. Yesterday we played Pentiment, and it's basically looking at what games do with history, or what they can do with history, and how yeah, how different types of cultures, or different cultures, different time periods are represented in games. And we do that mostly focused on ancient settings. That's pre-modern. I think is also apt, given that we also do Pentiment, for example. But so yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, I have nothing to hide. That's a good answer. That's a complete answer. I'll just nod.
Yeah, I think Lauren is muted.
Lauren, are you muted? She's muted.
You guys,
Yeah.
sorry, I keep muting myself while you guys are scared that I'm making weird noises in the background. But I was going. What I was was that, like, my next question that has to do with like what you guys during the stream.
Mhm.
So since you got Archaeogaming Live, implemented a thing where you kind of play through a full game, individual live streams. So this leads into the question mark of like, how do you game you're going to be playing for like 8 weeks or weeks? So there's various ways. One of the one that we just got done playing literally this morning was Total War Pharaoh. So of course that new game that came out that is very obviously set in the world and etc. Not all of them are new games, or so yeah. How do you pick what games to? Alex, you can touch on this too, because it's a wonderful, basically database free game that has anything. So
yeah, a work in progress database of games, and mostly focused on the Greco-Roman things. Yeah, how we choose the games, I think it varies from case to case. There's a couple of factors involved. It's first off, it has to be interesting enough I mean, it has to fit the topic, I guess.
We need to have something. We need to be able to say something about it.
Yeah.
And at least one of us needs to kind of know what the game is about, or if it's a completely new game, we all need to be like, okay, this is a game that we want to play. Like none of us had played Pharaoh before because it just come out, but we were like, yeah, that's fair. And then in other cases, like some people have played games and proposed them to the rest of the team. Like the rest of the team is David Serrano Lozano, Dr. David Serrano Lozano, and Julie Levy. So we're all communicating and talking. Sometimes like one person proposes one game and other people are like, yeah, this is interesting. Like, yes, sure, I don't know anything about this game, but let's go. So it's either games, or sometimes we do retro gaming, which is David is implementing that right now. But our retro gaming, our retro series with Age of Mythology was crazy, which is a game that I grew up with because I was playing that when it was coming out. And some people are younger than that, so they did not remember that game. So that was a great classic. So it's a lot of it's a long dialogue. Like it's a lot of talking. We have a list of games that we want to play or that we should play. We also have a list of games with some archaeological elements, although it's not maybe real world archaeology, like The Legend of Zelda, which we played over the summer. Julie played that over the summer. And like Horizon Forbidden West and Zero Dawn, Star Wars too. So we usually we want to choose games that are set in antiquity, but not necessarily in this universe, or games that present some aspects of archaeology, like when we did Tomb Raider and Uncharted, or games that have to do with the reception of the ancient world in some way. So there has to be at least one of these three, like it's antiquity, archaeology, or reception, and then or mythology in the case of Stray Gods and Hades. And then we usually talk about it and we go from there and we see who can play, because it's also a matter of platform. Some I'm on PC, Alex has a PS5, Julie has a Switch but not a gaming laptop, and not so it's also a matter of who can play this and how. And then from there like, oh, what kind of guests can we have for this? And then we it's a constant dialogue. It's there's a chat that is like way too long.
Yeah, I think your guys' back with that and gaming live chat with most active one on Slack. Let's a little bit so about like people that you're inviting on the street side. That how do you decide that?
Yeah, again, it's a mix of things. It's so when we started, it was we launched this call, I think, for participants or something, or call for guests, I think, and we had a couple of people who who joined through there. Otherwise, it's I think over the years, which sounds really old if I say it like that, but over the we've gotten this like network of people or community of people that we that we've become embedded in, and we pull people from that. Or if we know or if we're playing a specific game that we know that someone specifically has worked on or worked on a time period set in that game, we ask them to join, and quite often they do. We've also had a couple of game designers join. I think one of the streams I think I was most proud of when we did them was the one from the very beginning with Hades, our first stream, and we actually had the writer for Hades on as a guest, and that was a fantastic experience, and hearing him talk about how they made the game, that was fantastic. We've also had the developer of this game Skabma on last year, which is a game set in Sami, Finland. So it's a game made by an indigenous game studio, which I think was also so interesting and insightful to have the developers' own experiences. So I guess it's a mix of things, but if anybody's watching or anyone's seeing this and they would like to join as a guest, please reach out, because we're always looking for new people.
Yeah, the game I have to shout out is Darkness, when you had
Sure.
one mezzo, which is great, of course. At least I find, and I'm not a gamer, but that in general, at least in the Western world, it's much easier to find things in class than a lot of other areas. And actually, on that note, because we, I know I also run event and communication. We do the reading group this summer, and we're trying to have more stuff, American things, or Eastern Asian things, or like Africa things.
Yeah.
Again, we love Egypt, obviously, but that's easier to recruit for. Have you guys ever done anything that is in like an Eastern Asian place?
We've played one of the DLCs of Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is set in ancient China. Well, mythological ancient China. Yeah. We did that. We had some actually good guests. The internet was absolutely terrible for the whole series because it's as always. But we had some good guests and some good conversations. I'm thinking if we've done.
what I was actually wanted to propose for next year is that next year we have this game, Black Myth Wukong, that's coming out in August, which is fully set in Chinese
Ooh.
mythology, and is like based
Ooh.
on Journey to the West, which is something that I really want to play and see. It's also like a Dark Souls version of the Chinese mythology, which,
Praise the sun.
yeah, can be either really good or so yeah. There's a couple of interesting things coming out. I don't think there's just happened that so much has happened on it so far. I think the Phoenix Rising thing is the most deep we've ever gone into that.
Again, if anyone watching knows other games, also send them our way. We're always happy to add to some things we can be playing. So my next, maybe not, depends on how we're talking, is about like what people get out of coming to you. On the other end of it, like we know that experts talk about things with you in different areas of stuff have to do with part of the game playing. So to add that to the note of how they're recruiting for people, they play, they're like, okay, in this portion of the game, so let's try to get an expert, whatever, Greek pottery on, because we're playing through this part where we go through the forum and Assassin's Creed, whatever. So on the people who are joining us on every week and being in the chat, thanks so much. Shout out to all of our dedicated Twitch followers. Kind of like what can people expect while they're watching this? Do people get out of?
Well, a lot of animal facts. we
If anything.
usually go on tangents talking about animals, especially hippos. Cincinnati Zoo, if you're listening, come to us. Let's talk about hippos.
Yeah.
We have a love-hate relationship with them. It's because of ancient Egypt, right? Apart from hippo facts and a lot of sirens, since I live very close to a hospital. So we usually try to give the historical context of the game that we're playing. If we're playing a game that is set in history, for instance, for Pharaoh, we've been talking a lot about the end of the 19th dynasty and why are we changing history and what is going on and who are these characters. If we play a mythological game, then we try to talk about the mythology and see how the texts have been re-elaborated and reinterpreted and adapted for the game, which was very something to talk, very very interesting to talk about with the Hades devs and people, because we were like, why did they make these choices? It's fantastic. And even with Sami mythology, which we didn't really know, so it was also interesting to learn. So there is history to be learned as archaeology. We talk a lot about archaeology whenever we can, especially if we see material culture in games. We usually go bonkers with that, and we talk about it when we did our Assassin's Creed Valhalla streams with Adam from the Ludo History channel, which is a great channel. We talked a lot about material culture and practices, which is something that is based in reality, and how all of this has been received in games. We usually also try to talk about why certain older theories are wrong, but we see them in games as tropes, but we should move past them. For instance, certain representations of foreigners. If you're playing with Egypt and the foreigners are bloodthirsty people who just want to burn the war down, or they're schemy Orientals, something of the sort. We talk a lot about reception of monsters, if there are monsters around. When we were playing Age of Mythology, we had a ball with the laser crocodiles, as one does. That was a lot of fun. Did we commit crimes? Yes. And we
Did you commit crimes? Yeah.
As a team, we all committed crimes against zebras. I am not taking
There is
individual
footage
responsibility
showing
for
that I know nothing about that.
You have no proof. You have no proof.
Me too. It's on YouTube.
I don't recall. Anyway, so
you can find all the reports on YouTube and Twitch.
And on Twitch. We also try to invite people who maybe do not know the games, but they know the time periods really well. Which is something that usually plays well with what they kind of expect from the game especially if they come in and they don't know anything about it, versus like people who have already played the games and have like opinions on the series, um, which is all the fun. It's also like very funny when we have non-gamers who are thrown into games. Like when we played the Heaven's Vault, we had the person who was the inspiration for the protagonist, Dr. Monica Hanna. She's absolutely not a gamer. She's never touched a game in her life, and we just threw her. They were like, "And this is you in the game," and she was like, "Okay." Interesting, but then she had like a lot to say about archaeology and how archaeology is done and what she's doing. So we are trying to put together the fun part, because we always have banter, with a more educational approach. And if people in the chat have questions, we always try to answer. And if we don't know, we're like, wait a second, we Google things and we're like, we look them up. And it's fun because we all have different fields of expertise. So sometimes, like me or Alex or like any of the other streamers, we're like, I wonder this. And if the other person knows, then they can answer. And if we don't know, it becomes like a Google things together. So it's a team effort, but we're trying to be as like divulgative as possible. And if we mention, and not assume that people have previous knowledge of anything. If we mention ancient text, we give the context. If we mention ancient objects, we usually show them. So we are trying to be as as open and as accessible as possible. We invite people to send us questions. Sometimes we ask weird questions to our chat as well. So especially about hippos. So we're trying not to be too. We're trying to be rigorous in our scholarship, in the sense that we're not telling lies, but we also try not to be academic in the way we speak. Otherwise, it would just be a conference and not a gaming stream.
Yeah.
And I will streaming on Twitch. The most active our chats are. It's very fun. A lot of people in the chat are other scholars too. So if folks don't know the answers, chat might know the answer. And links to and all this stuff is great. Okay, so on that, this will actually be the last thing is to just a tiny bit about your modules, just because each of you may educate. I'll give a brief overview of what they are. Last one is just if you have anything to say that we did. So really, Archaeogaming education module that is pretty well, so it is very professional. That is basically like teaching packs for teachers from mostly middle school to high school, teachers to use this. That we have 6 of them out right now that are on different topics in the ancient world, so they're free. You have to the form sign up for them. You can kind of track how many people are. Other than that, they're free. They include video that is used clips from video games and stuff to teach about ancient history. They have like quizzes and homework and to do classroom and background information for to use to learn more about it. So they are a wonderful resource. Have both done one of them SASA, so I'll just have them shout out their education.
Yeah, I think mine was called "All Roads Lead to Rome." It was about the Roman Empire. It's the expansion of the Roman Empire, like the technology that made it possible. Looking at aqueducts, looking at the road system, looking at Roman concrete, which I remember we had an unexpected blast talking about when we did it, because we figured if we could make kids interested in concrete, then we succeeded with the video. Then it was also about the cultural consequences of it, like looking at how cultures interact, because I used to be this idea of Romanization in academia, that once Rome entered a new region, that everything just suddenly became Roman, but it was much more complicated than that. And I think we looked specifically, for example, at Egypt and combinations of gods. I think we mentioned Anubis, like this combination of Hermes and Anubis, or Zeus and Egyptian deities. So we combined footage from, I think it was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Origins, Rome Total War 2, maybe a couple of others that I'm forgetting at this point, but I think those were the most elaborate ones. And so, yeah, it's like I said, it's Roman expansion, Roman Empire. What made it possible, and what did it, what effect did it have?
Nice.
Thank you.
The one I did with my good friend Dr. Brianna Jackson, who's basically one of us. She's
Yeah.
she's one of the family now. Was called Building the First Cities: Urbanism in Egypt and Mesopotamia. And this was about the very early phases of urbanization along the Tigris and Euphrates and Nile River, as seen through video games, because we were thinking about city building games, and realized that um, the tech tree, idea works really well to explain early urbanization. So we used a lot of city builders game. We used Nebuchadnezzar, Immortal Cities, Children of the Nile, Sumerians, Pharaoh, the old one, because the new one had not come out yet, and some Assassin's Creed Origins, to talk about like the river as a central resource, and then the development of society basically through like various steps. So we had animal husbandry and agriculture, industry, writing, bureaucracy, and then social hierarchy. So it was like a very linear progression. And we used footage from the games. Assassin's Creed was the one that we used the least because it's already a city builder. So we used the what's it called, their educational thing, the Discovery Tour.
Discovery Tour, yeah.
Yeah. But we mostly use other things, especially to talk about agriculture and building. And it was interesting. We had a lot of activities that had to do with writing in ancient languages. So we had Q&A forum, we had hieroglyphic counting, so teaching the numbers. We did not teach children how to build a pyramid, but maybe for the next module, we'll talk about that. For the second part of urbanization. But who knows? Maybe if they're interested, the fun fact, we still don't know how, but
But we'll teach you anyway.
It will be experimental archaeology. Maybe the children can figure it out.
With that, you can make your informed decision.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, amazing. So as always, if you want, if you're a teacher or anyone that wants to use education modules, you can find them on the site. I will very quick put up you to follow us on Twitch. That can find Kate, Alex, Julie. Pretty much every while we allow them to take a but usually it's always around. So please do follow and subscribe on Twitch. We would love to see you there and see you in the chat. Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention?
If you're interested in joining the team or working with us, please reach out and or just watch our our streams.
Watch our streams.
Yeah, we're trying to do different things each time, so it's not this more of the same.
So we are currently on a hiatus with Saturday morning streams until January the 12th. So our last stream for the year will be a Christmas special on Friday the 22nd of this month, so next Friday. And then we will start again in January with Pentiment on Fridays and Chants of Senar, which is a very interesting, very nerdy game, on Saturday mornings. So we are set for the next 2 months.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on your team highlight as next Friday on Twitch for a holiday special. And we'll see you next time, guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.